All right, welcome everybody. Come on in. We're going to give this a couple minutes so that folks can join us. Today's session is Understanding the Inflation Reduction Act's Decarbonization Rebate Programs, Homes, HEERA, and EBD. Again, we'll let folks have a couple minutes to come on in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Just a quick introduction. My name is Ian Sharples. I'm the Sustainable Housing Program Manager here at the partnership. We're really happy to put this program on for you. Again, today's session is understanding the Inflation Reduction Act's decarbonization rebate programs, Homes, HEERA, and EBD. Should be a really good time. We're giving it a couple minutes for folks to come in, so just hold tight on that. Jumping ahead a little bit. Well, still see people coming in. Good, good. Welcome everybody. Give it another minute or so. So you still see some people coming in, so that's good. Get a little bit more. All right. Think it's about starting to level off, so let's go ahead and get going here. Welcome everybody to Understanding the Inflation Reduction Act's Decarbonization Rebate Programs, Homes, HEERA, and EBD. I think we got a pretty good program here for you today. This program is being put on by the California Housing Partnership. Just to introduce myself, my name is Ian Sharples. I'm the Sustainable Housing Program Manager here at the partnership. I'm really happy to help put this program on along with my colleagues Hilda and Sierra and Blanca. We've got, I think, a nice little presentation here for you. But before we get started, I would like to thank our sponsors. That would be the Wells Fargo Foundation and the Building Initiative for Low Emissions Development, BUILD. Thank Wells Fargo for all their continuing support and work on facilitating the equitable decarbonization of affordable housing here in California. Really appreciative of that. And we also want to thank BUILD. BUILD is a State of California, California Energy Commission program. And what it's able to do is offer up to 300 hours of free technical assistance for new developments that are going all electric. So if you like what you're hearing today and you're thinking, man, I really want to build an all electric affordable housing development, you should give Build a call. You can reach out to me. My email is isharples, SHARPLES at chpc.net. And I'd be happy to get you connected and get you involved with the technical assistance and build. They're able to help with all stages of the development process. So again, this is free 300 hours of technical assistance available for you for all electric new construction. So a little bit of logistics for today. So first off, this webinar is being recorded. So if you don't want to be part of the recording, you should probably hop out now. I don't think anybody's really had any problems with that. We're also going to be distributing the recordings afterwards, so you can revisit what you learned here. We also have question and answers at the end of the program today. You can see down at the bottom of your screen, there's a little Q&A box. Just put your questions in there and we'll get to them at the end. And then finally, we will be sending the slides out after the presentation today. So if you didn't get everything in your notes, don't worry, we'll be sending the slides out as well. So today's presenter is Andrew Dawson. He's a policy advocacy manager here at the partnership. He works a lot on sustainability and sustainable policy advocacy for affordable housing. So he's a real expert here, real smart dude. Glad to call him a colleague. Just to be upfront though, today's presentation is going to be a little bit shorter than the other sessions, just because there's less we know about these programs as they currently stand. And Andrew will be explaining that and what that means, and kind of what we do know and what we don't know. So what are known, what are unknowns. So I'm going to let Andrew go ahead and take it away. Thank you there.
Thanks, Ian. Let me share screen. Perfect. Good to see everyone. Actually, I don't think I could see any of you, but hopefully you can all see me, or more importantly, see my slides. As Ian said, I'm the Policy Advocacy Manager here at the partnership. I've been here for a little while now, about a year and a half, I want to say, leading on some of the policy work in the decarbonization space in particular, but also, working in affordable housing finance as the partnership is known to do. As Ian said, this presentation is going to be a little bit shorter. Part of the reason for that is these programs do not exist yet. They're still being created and made, which is part of the reason why you have a policy person talking to you about these programs, is because a policy is still being made on these programs. So I'm here to talk with you about kind of the decisions that have been made, what decisions are continuing to be made, and maybe next steps as how we are engaging and maybe how you can engage as well, or help us with engaging and helping affordable housing get some of this money. So really quick agenda, I'll be talking about the Inflation Reduction Act rebate programs. There's two of them. There's the Home Efficiency Rebates, and there's a Home Electrification and Appliance Rebates. I'll be going into kind of the eligibility timeline, what we're hearing from various government agencies on this program, on these programs. And then I'll be going into a state program called the Equitable Building Decarbonization Program. This is a state program. It doesn't have anything to do with the IRA and the Inflation Reduction Act as of yet. However, you'll see later on in the presentation how this kind of plays a role. I'll be talking about eligibility timeline there, as well as what can be used and things like that. And then next steps. Again, I want to keep this a little bit informal, so please drop your questions in the chat, and looking forward to the conversation after this presentation. So there are two IRA rebate programs. There's this Home Efficiency Rebate, and there's a Home Electrification and Appliance Rebate programs. So the Home Efficiency Rebate program is dependent on the energy savings. So many of you may have used programs like the Low Income Weatherization Program, or LIWIP, where you kind of calculate how much energy savings you have, and that would be your incentive amount, or your incentive amount is related to your energy savings. That is very similar here with the Home Efficiency Rebate, where your rebate is related to how much energy you're saving. The way the program is being distributed is you have DOE, so the Department of Energy, which gives out money to all the different states. The states have to apply to get this money. So California is eligible for $292 million in this Home Efficiency Rebate program. California is applying for it and will likely get the money. It's often called HOMES or HEER or HER. The rebate programs, for some reason, have multiple names. I think they started out with one name, and then DOE tried to change it later on, and it hasn't quite caught on fully yet. So you end up hearing a lot of different acronyms for it. It's all the same rebate. So if I talk about HOMES or HER or something like that, that's a home efficiency rebate. That's all dependent on energy savings. And this is for existing buildings only. As you can imagine, if this is only going to help with energy savings, only existing buildings can apply. The next program is a Home Electrification and Appliance Rebate Program. This is a point of sale rebate for certain appliances. These are all Energy Star appliances. California is eligible for $290 million to this program. Again, this had the same naming issue in a lot of ways. It's often called HEERA or HEER or anything like that. And this is for existing buildings as well as new construction. So you can get this rebate for appliances kind of no matter what. Going a little bit into the eligibility of the programs. So 50% of households with incomes less than 80% AMI. It's a pretty reasonable threshold. Most affordable housing in California will be able to apply. One interesting thing is DOE released categorical eligibility. So this basically means that if you're in one of these programs, you're automatically eligible for the homes or HEERA rebate programs. In terms of housing programs, so you have public housing, you have Section 8, Section 202, Section 811, you have privately owned multifamily receiving tenant-based assistance. I think the big one for all of you here is LIHTC, so all low-income housing tax credit properties are categorically eligible for these programs. The other big things are kind of energy programs. So you might have heard of LIHEAP or WAP, the Weatherization Assistance Program. By using those programs, you're also categorically eligible for these rebate programs. The other thing to note is the states can add to this list. So the CEC might say something like, if you're eligible for the solar and multifamily affordable housing program, like SOMA, you can maybe be automatically eligible for these programs as well. This is kind of up to the state to decide what is going to be on or off the list. Another thing that might be happen is if you have HCD funding, for example, or something like that, then you are allowed to participate in these programs. That is ongoing advocacy on the state level to figure out exactly what that would be. So kind of the way the program works is you have DOE, they're giving money to the states. So the California Energy Commission will be the one administering these rebate programs. Then they're going to have a process, and then the money is then going to go to the administrators, which will then go on the ground to you all, to a lot of people getting these rebate programs. Where we are in the process right now is that the federal government released their guidance. So they approved their guidance, they released their guidance. States are now applying or can now apply for these rebate programs to get the money. California was one of the early adopters. So California applied and got approved for early funding. This was available for certain states. And they have started some public comment on the homes program. So this is the efficiency program. And they're building out their programs right now. After they build out their programs, they will have to find administrators. And then after that, then the money will hit the ground. So there is some time before this money is going to hit the ground. We're thinking the first of it is going to probably happen end of summer this year, maybe early fall. Looks like we have a hand raised. Sabrina, I'm not sure if you want to put your question in the chat or in the Q&A, because I'm not sure if I can unmute you. The other thing to note is that California will be making additional guidelines to the federal guidelines. So all the things I'm talking about right now are the federal guidelines. California will be making additional improvements or changes to the guidelines when they administer it for the state. The DOE gave significant room for states to build a program. So this is from everything about calculating savings to what actual appliances can be allowed, what can be funded. DOE gave a lot of room for states to do this. And as a reminder, California usually goes a little bit further than the federal government in certain things. So for example, they might target more low-income people than the federal government would, or something like that. That's something that is very common, and I wouldn't think California wouldn't do that. They might do that. I'm not 100% sure, but California is going to be changing some of the rules here to better fit the state. One example of this is in calculating energy savings, there is a way to do it through a modeled approach or a measured approach. During comments, California asked people who are commenting which one would be better, which one would be worse. In the comments, it seemed like a lot of people liked both. And so then the state of California is going to have to choose either modeled or measured or both, or create a program for both. And DOE leaves it open for California to do whatever they want. So as I said earlier, California is one of the first people or first states to apply for the program. We see New Mexico, New York, Hawaii as the other ones. In conversations with the CEC, the CEC has been working with DOE on this, on the applications to get the money. Because California is one of the first ones, you can imagine, I'm sure there were some hurdles, things like that to kind of talk through, figure out. But part of the reward of that is California gets the money first. So we get the money first and we are able to deliver the money faster. So this slide is probably the most important slide for you all. This is probably the slide that you all care the most about. This is how much money is available through each of the programs. So the top portion here is the homes program or the efficiency program. You could see that if you increase your predicted energy savings, your rebate is higher. So if you're below 80% AMI, you can get up to 80% of project costs, up to $4,000. If you have 35% energy savings, you can get $8,000 or 80% of project costs. There is some leeway here, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. DOE did put a maximum in these programs. So right now there's a $200,000 maximum for multifamily buildings, a $400,000 maximum for if you do 35% energy savings. This is also up for debate, and I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. The other program, the Home Electrification Program, HEERA, is a lot more specified. So this gives you up to 100% of project costs, up to $14,000, and it's only for certain appliances. Certain appliances like electric heat pump, water heaters, space heating, cooling, things like that. They do have electric wiring, insulation, air sealing, and ventilation as well. There is a priority to do the wiring, insulation, air sealing, and ventilation first, as well as all the appliances have to be Energy Star related. These up to amounts is up to that amount depending on the cost. It can cover up to 100% of the cost of each of these appliances. So you can get up to this amount to a total cost of $14,000 per unit. So it could add up quite a bit depending on how many units you have. On the home's efficiency, this chart shows the modeled savings approach. If you do a measured savings approach, you have a little bit a different rebate amount and a different amount of energy savings needed. So instead of 20%, if you're doing a measured savings approach, you only need 15% to get the $4,000 for the rebate. Again, the California Energy Commission has to decide whether or not they want to do the measured or the modeled approach. There's a lot of comments about going both ways. So they'll have to make the decision. They could choose both as well. In terms of when people will get their money back for the rebates, DOE put a timeline. So it's within 4 weeks of submitting the application if you're using the modeled approach. And it has to be within 60 days of submitting invoice to the state if you're using a measured approach. So you're still out a little bit of money at the end, but not too much. But they will be doing some data analysis as people move forward. Here's some other notes about the programs that are important. There is at least a 10% set aside for low-income multifamily specifically. And that is, the baseline. There has to be at least 10% of money going to low-income multifamily. This is in addition to the Justice 40 requirements. And the Justice 40 requirements are 40% of the money have to go to disadvantaged and low-income communities. So this is up to around 50% of the money going to low-income residents and low-income people. And hopefully multifamily can get a little bit more than just that 10%. The state must collect data before and after. This can be harder, right? Because you have to figure out what kind of data analysis to do, things like that. The state is figuring that out and will have to collect data before and after to ensure that there are energy savings happening, there is efficiency happening, and it will help build out their programs for later. One of the key things about these programs is they want to build up a marketplace for it, and getting data is going to be really important for that. HUD released a letter and signed with DOE to utility companies about providing utility usage data to multifamily. That's going to be really important moving into the future. So we're hoping that the PUC as well as other utilities here in California are able to work with us on that, or work with the California Energy Commission on that. As I said before, the state has the opportunity to change things in the program. So when I said that, the homes program covers 80% of the cost, the state can create a program to cover 100% of the cost if they talk to DOE about it. They could also change the maximum amount. So the maximum amount before was $200,000 or $400,000, depending on your energy savings for multifamily. The state can change that, and they could have a conversation with the DOE about increasing that cap so that multifamily can get more money. And the state can also define eligible costs. So they can define more things that the programs can cover. The one note is solar PV is not allowed. The guidelines didn't quite make it clear that solar PV was not allowed, but through the frequently asked questions page and other questions, solar PV is not going to be allowed for these rebate programs. And it cannot be included in your modeling or measuring when you do your homes program. So that's one thing that's going to be important later on when you're looking at savings. The other big thing I want to talk about is layering. So if you want to layer this money with other forms of funding. So if you're combining with a federal rebate, it cannot be layered for the same upgrade. So you can use homes and HEERA together, but you can't use it when you're using it on the same appliance. And that's going to be kind of annoying later on, but that's going to be important. It's the same for grants. So grants cannot be used for the same upgrade as the rebate is used for. However, loans are a little bit different. Loans are fine if you layer that, as long as it covers the remaining costs. Non-federal funding is fine. So if you think about any of the utility programs, like LIWIP, or any of the utility programs, or any of the state programs like LIWIP or SOMA or anything like that, stacking is totally fine on that regard. The other note is tax credits. So there are the 25C tax credits for appliances. That's fine to layer, but you have to claim the tax credits to the price after the rebate is applied. So after the rebate is applied, then you can claim the tax credits to that new price. And then one quick note about taxability. The rebates are treated as a reduction in purchase price or cost of the property, and it will not be required to be reported as income, which will probably be important when you think about basis when you're doing LIHTC deals. So that's the federal stuff, but where is the CEC in all of this? Where are they at in doing all this stuff? So in HEERA, the CEC actually split HEERA into two phases, the first phase and the second phase, and they're thinking of doing two kind of separated programs in a little bit. They submitted an application to DOE earlier this year in January. It came as a surprise to a lot of advocates. Part of the reason it came as a surprise was because there wasn't much public comment for CEC to submit their application. So they're going to have to do all this public comment after doing the application. They haven't shown us the application. Part of the reason they haven't is because of the iteration of the applications. So the HEERA money comes in tranches. And so they have to keep updating their application over and over again. So they haven't shown us their first application yet. But they got the money, and now they have to conduct workshops, get public comment, and then implement the program. TREC is a contractor training, so I'm not going to spend much time onto this. In the homes program, they released a request for information in January. Their partnership, along with a bunch of different organizations, were able to submit comments related to the money in homes. They're going to start a workshop series so that they can get more public comment. They said February, but in all likelihood, it's probably going to be in March. And then they're going to submit their DOE application to get money. And then lastly, there's HEERA phase 2. So they're going to do HEERA phase 1 first, and then do HEERA phase 2. They have to kind of start there again with releasing RFI, conducting workshops, and then submitting the application to DOE. So that one's not going to take, that one's going to take a little while, but hoping to get the HEERA phase 1 money in as soon as possible. So the next program I want to talk about is the Equitable Building Decarbonization Program. This is a program that the state has. So this has nothing to do with the IRA money as of right now. However, it might become important later on. This is a $400 million direct install program for existing buildings. It used to be over $600 million, but due to the January budget, it got cut quite significantly. But $400 million is still, a large amount of money. So that's nothing to sneeze at. The way it works is there's going to be administrator teams in each of the regions. So you have a northern region, a central region, and a southern region. And each of those administration teams are going to have to figure out initial focus areas and targeting. The CEC is only going to approve what the administration teams give out. These initial focus areas are going to be focused on utility bill savings, climate impacts, underserved populations, energy burdens, things like that. In terms of targeting, they're going to target utility bill savings, climate adaptation, potential for greenhouse gas emission reduction, as well as proximity to other low-income households for ease of marketing. These are what the administration teams are going to have to figure out when they administer the program. The administration teams have not been chosen yet. And so then this will have to happen at a later time, but just know that there are going to be initial focus areas and targeting. And so then if you are in part of those focus areas, you're going to help with targeting, things like that. I think you'll be very valuable to the program. There's two ways to get eligibility, or there's two things you need to satisfy in order to get eligibility for this program. The first is community eligibility. This includes disadvantaged communities by Cal EPA. There's also census tracts with median household incomes at or below 80% of the statewide median income, and census tracts with median income at or below the threshold designated as low income by HCD. So this covers a lot of area, but does not cover all the areas. And so you want to make sure you're within communities of like this before you apply. This is what the map kind of looks like for disadvantaged communities that Cal EPA has. There's a significant amount in the valley and the desert area. If we zoom into LA, we could see LA and the areas surrounding LA have a lot of area that is eligible for this program. If you look into the Bay Area, it's not quite as much, but we do see a lot in the East Bay. We look at Oakland, San Leandro. You see a little bit in Redwood City, and a little bit in South Bay and San Jose as well. So you want to be sure you're in one of those communities. This is the disadvantaged communities. There's 2 other community eligibility scenarios that you can be a part of. The second part is income eligibility. This is 66% of units are affordable for incomes at or below 80% AMI. A documentation of a regulatory agreement works. General documentation also works. This is a similar threshold to other programs like LIWIP and SOMA. And so then if you're eligible for those programs, you're going to be eligible for this program as well in terms of income. And just a regulatory agreement would work. In terms of eligible measures, this is all heating, cooling, building envelope stuff, water heating. You can get shower heads, faucets, things like that. Induction cooktops, clothes dryers, air filters, LED lights, kind of all the above. There's also room for electrical wiring, panel upsizing, and remediation if that's necessary for the upgrades themselves. The other thing to note is EV charging and solar is not in these programs. So EV charging and solar costs a ton of money. I realize that's where a lot of the pressure is. It is unfortunate that they're not covered here in this program. In terms of electrical wiring, panel sizing, and remediation, there is a maximum average cost. So that's something to be cognizant of. This is the average cost, and this is per a region. So, the maximum is $6,000 per unit in multifamily across the region on average can be used for safety and remediation and electrical upgrades. If you have a building that really needs help, it can still get help, even if it's past this average, because this is across the entire region itself. So here I want to kind of go into kind of what CEC is thinking, what's going on with CEC, and kind of where do we expect some of the money? When do we expect some of the money? So the CEC is going to be implementing 4 programs now. There's 3 IRA programs. There's the homes, there's HEERA 1, there's HEERA 2, and EBD. This all combines for approximately $1 billion for decarbonizing homes. So it's a lot of money that you all can apply for that has never been in decarbonization before, right? Like LIWIP, for example, has had nowhere near this amount of money throughout its entire process. So it's a lot of money going to decarbonization. So it can probably fill a lot of the gap financing you would need in your projects. For homes, the CEC just had public comment on the program. They'll be doing workshops and submitting the application in the next couple of months to get the money. My expectation is probably early next year is where we're going to get homes money. For HEERA, phase 1 funding is approved by DOE. Remember, the CEC didn't have a public process before they did their application. So they're doing the public process afterwards. So they're doing workshops in the next couple of months. After that, they'll have to find administration teams. And they're thinking this will be kind of later this year. They're thinking late summer, but probably maybe fall. And then lastly, in the EBD program, the Equitable Building Decarbonization Program, the guidelines are out. They've been approved. Now they are waiting on the solicitation of administrators for the EBD program itself. We're hoping this will also be late this year. There's still some things they're figuring out. For example, some of the tenant protection pieces are still being figured out and things like that. So we're waiting on the solicitation of administrators. And then once administrators get picked, then money can come through to communities. but we're thinking late this year for a lot of this money. And then I want to make a quick note about making the money easy to get. So again, this is a lot of money, but it's really hard for you all to be applying to all these different programs. And so we've been advocating to the CEC as well as a number of other organizations about how to combine these programs in some way. And so the CEC is in conversation with DOE on combining these programs, creating these programs so that you don't have to do 4 different applications. You can just do one application and you get the money you need. These conversations are ongoing. The CEC doesn't know if they're going to be able to do it. The hope is maybe they can. There are some hiccups though. For example, like eligibility is different across the programs. There's different requirements for each program, right? The homes program, for example, there's a lot of data analysis things to go into it. We also know that layering is a little trickier, right? The federal rebate programs can't be layered onto the same upgrade themselves. So there needs to be some accounting in place for that, which makes it a lot harder to braid the programs together. And then lastly, there are different types of programs, right? So the homes and HEERA program are rebate programs. The EBD program is a direct install program. There is an incentive program within EBD that the CEC hasn't made any updates to yet. So there is potential there, but fundamentally these are different programs. And so then layering them might be a little bit harder, braiding them might be a little bit harder. There's a lot of people pushing CEC on this. So we're really hoping this is going to be gonna happen. With that, I just want to give you kind of an update on kind of what was going on with the Energy Commission, with DOE on these programs. I'm happy to answer any questions related to build out the programs. If you want my theories on why things are happening the way they're happening, happy to talk about that as well. But yeah, I'm ready to keep it relatively informal, with the Q&A in the chat box to talk about this stuff. And one last thing, since these programs are still being created, if you have input or want to put input on these programs, let me know kind of what you're thinking. And I can add it to kind of when I talk to the Energy Commission or DOE or writing comment letters or anything like that to give them more context into the affordable housing space. We'd love to have those conversations with you all and work with you on that.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrew. Looks like I wonder if Sabrina's able to speak here. I think we got you unmuted. You had your hand up for a question earlier, Sabrina.
My apologies, that was an error.
Oh, no worries. Well, if anybody has any questions, yeah, put them in the Q&A box.
So I see one about getting notified about upcoming workshops. So you can sign up on the CEC website to get kind of updates on these workshops. The other thing is we're following it pretty closely. So if you're interested, definitely reach out to Ian or me or someone, and we can get you connected to when the workshops are happening. They are probably going to be on Zoom, so they're not going to be in person because of the travel issue, like the travel ban in California for right now for all the state workers. But yeah, we can get you connected to when those workshops are happening.
So I'm not seeing any other questions right now. we got one coming in from Michelle Williams. How should housing developers go about incorporating these funding sources into our financial projections? So I think that really gets to kind of some of the time frame in terms of implementation for this program. What are your thoughts on that, Andrew?
Yeah, so HEERA and EBD are coming out kind of later this year. EBD is a direct install program, so you can kind of treat it as kind of a grant or something like that. The hard thing with HEERA is that it is a rebate program, so it's going to have impacts probably on basis. as you work through your TCAC applications, things like that. There is some movement. So we commented to iBank, as well as LA's Green Bank is trying to figure out ways for loans for rebates. So the rebates can pay off a loan that they give you as a way to help out with that. I don't know any much more information on that though.
No.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah.
Is EBD regarded as a pilot program for expansion later? Yes. So EBD was a pretty big effort by a lot of legislators as well as executive branch members and advocates to build the program. It originally had $922 million into it, so it was pretty close to $1 billion by itself. But due to the budget scenario, it got significantly cut this year. But the idea is there'll be an ongoing program to help with direct installation of appliances and electrification appliances.
Cool.
Who would be a typical administrator of the funds? So for the administration of the funds, these can be anyone. So the CEC is very open as to who would be administrating some of the funds. I imagine a lot of the administrators who have applied for programs like LIWIP, Tech, SOMA, things like that, will be applying to EBD as well. I'm not 100% certain on that stuff, or I don't think I can tell you 100% with certainty that who's applying. But yeah, pretty similar administrators to kind of some of the other programs that exist already. There is a CBO requirement to be part of the administration team for helping with marketing and things like that. It's similar to the SOMA program that has a CBO as part of an administration team. Are all 4 programs rebate programs? So the homes and the HEERA programs are rebate programs. So the efficiency one and the 2 appliance rebate programs, HEERA 1 and HEERA 2. And in the grand scheme of things, it's all HEERA, but California has HEERA 1 and HEERA 2, and they separate it out a little bit. Those are all rebate programs. The EBD program is a direct install program that'll just be kind of money going into the project without needing the rebates. There is going to be an incentive portion of EBD, but they have not created that portion yet. So right now, just think of it as money that flows straight into your projects with your housing projects.
I want to answer Sabrina's question real quick. So for the GRP and ITC sessions, yes, those slide decks are available. They will be sent out again, I think, after this session. If you haven't received them, anybody can reach out to me via email, and I'll be happy to share them as well.
Can one use federal rebates to support payback of federal loan? How does braiding work? So you can, so the rebates, if you want to stack it with a federal loan, the rebate would go to an appliance, and then the loan would have to cover the rest of the cost of that appliance. So there is some leeway in layering, but not quite to the same degree as some other stuff. The issue with braiding, so the DOE really wants to be able to braid these programs and layer these programs with other state and utility resources. There are some hiccups though. The layering piece is part of that hiccup piece. And there are some issues there. California is hoping to do some braiding work with this stuff. Again, it's getting pretty difficult and getting pretty nuanced. So we'll see if that actually ends up happening or how that ends up happening, but that's a hope. We do not want you all applying to several different energy programs to get, piecemeal, a few $1 million. We want you to be able to do one application and get, a ton of funding from that one application without having to piecemeal all these different programs. and different requirements. And I think CEC is hearing us on that. It's just about whether or not DOE allows it, and how CEC will go about it, and how difficult it will be moving forward.
All right, that looks like all the questions so far. Yeah. Thank you, Andrew, for your presentation. I will note that we are sending out a post-event survey for this. So if you are interested in hearing more on this topic when the participation pathways become more clear, we would love to hear about that. Any interest in say a follow-up session on these programs. But yeah, thank you, Andrew. I also want to thank again our sponsors, the Wells Fargo Foundation and the Building Initiative for Low Emissions Design. They really helped make all this possible. So I think we had a good session of discussions on the Inflation Reduction Act.
Ian?
We're here to help more. Yeah.
Sorry, Ian, just wanted to say if you can share maybe for folks about our upcoming Housing California workshop.
Oh yeah.
And Andrew's workshop as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want kind of some more information on these topics, and you're going to be at Housing California, definitely check out the workshop Blanca will be moderating on the Inflation Reduction Act tax credits, and then Andrew will be participating in another workshop on the EBD. So I forget the titles off the top of my head.
Yeah, my workshop's related to kind of the decarbonization funding coming through the state, as well as some regulatory changes. For example, the SOMA program is going through quite a bit of changes right now. And then we also have Sarah Hill from AEA and Aaron Resch from Mogavero to talk about, how to layer some of these programs together, how to get the most money for your developments, and how to design early on for to be prepared for some of these funding opportunities to fill gaps in your capital stack.
Yeah, so the two sessions are going to be on March 7th at the Housing California conference. In the 110 slot is the leveraging IRA renewable energy tax incentives. That's the one Blanca is going to be moderating. And then on the 235 slot, so right after that, you can hop on over, will be affordable housing decarbonization, featuring Andrew. So yeah, if you're at Housing California, come see us. We're also going to be exhibiting in the exhibitor hall. So if you want to ask us questions in person, we'll be available there. I also want to point out the newsletter sign up link in the chat there. So if you want to stay connected with that. And oh, yeah, we're at booth 44. So yeah, come see us at Housing California. I think with that, we're just about wrapped up. So thank you, Andrew. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you everybody else who helped put this on. And I hope you have a good lunch.
Thanks, everyone.